At precisely 11:47 p.m., under a moon that seemed to smirk at the whole damn spectacle, I twisted that rusted lever deep beneath the lake's surface, and the water let out a groan like a giant finally exhaling after holding its breath for decades. Up above, through the swirling murk, I caught the first frantic flashes of emergency lights cutting across the ripples. Those poor bastards on the platform had no clue their shiny new community asset was about to become a multimillion-dollar mud pie. And as 500 homes plunged into pitch-black silence, I surfaced like a ghost from the past, water sluicing off my wetsuit, knowing I'd just flipped the script on the most entitled HOA president this side of Pennsylvania. Let me back up, because this didn't start with me playing underwater saboteur. No, it began 3 months earlier on a crisp April morning, when the lake, my lake, the one my family had owned since Eisenhower was in office, was sparkling like a postcard from simpler times. I was out on the dock, sipping black coffee strong enough to wake the dead, watching the mist curl off the water and the trout dart like silver arrows below. Name's Cole Thatcher, 44, ex-Army Corps engineer with 22 years under my belt inspecting dams and wrangling water systems that could swallow towns whole. I'd cashed out early after losing my wife to cancer, using the payout to retreat to this 200-acre slice of heaven my grandfather snagged for peanuts back in '52. The plan? Patch up the old cabin, cast lines for base, let the grief ebb away like the tide. But peace? Yeah, that lasted about as long as a politician's promise. The trouble rolled in like thunder, literally, with the rumble of diesel engines shattering the quiet. I set down my mug and trudged over, boots grinding on the gravel path Grandpa laid himself. 3 flatbeds were unloading excavators and pipes on my eastern shore, orange flags staking claims like they owned the place. A kid in a hard hat with a tablet was snapping pics. All business. "Hey, pal," I called out, keeping it civil. "This is private land. You got permission to be here." He barely looked up from his clipboard. That smug, "I've heard this before" smirk plastered on. "HOA clearance, sir." "We're good." "HOA clearance?" I almost laughed. My property wasn't part of any homeowners association, never had been. Meadowbrook Heights, that sprawl of cookie-cutter mansions across the lake, had popped up in the '80s, but the Thatcher deed predated their vinyl siding and fake colonials by decades. Before I could school him, a white Mercedes SUV with Sterling 1 plates purred up, and out stepped Victoria Sterling herself, HOA president and self-appointed queen of suburbia. Mid-50s, blonde hair helmeted in place by enough spray to defy a hurricane, suit sharper than a tax audit. She strode over like she was inspecting her kingdom, portfolio in one hand, designer bag in the other. "Mr. Thatcher," she said, voice dripping honey over steel, extending a manicured hand I didn't take. "Victoria Sterling, president of Meadowbrook Heights Homeowners Association. We need to chat about optimizing this. Water feature for the greater good." Water feature? My lake, the one where I'd learned to swim, where Dad taught me to bait a hook, where I'd scattered Sarah's ashes, reduced to HOA jargon. "This isn't some fountain in your cul-de-sac, Mrs. Sterling. This is private property. You're trespassing." Her smile was all teeth, no warmth, like a shark in pearls. "Oh, Cole. May I call you Cole? Progress waits for no one. Our emergency energy initiative has reclassified this as essential community infrastructure. County approved permits last month. We're installing a microhydro plant to provide backup power for 500 homes. Think of the families. I eyed the document she flourished like a royal decree. Stamped, sealed, but I'd reviewed enough permits to spot the red flags. No wetland sign-off, county zoning stamp instead of state water board. This is junk, I said, jabbing at the page. No environmental study, no federal watershed approval. You can't touch federally protected land with this. Victoria's eyes narrowed just a fraction, but she recovered with a chuckle that sounded practiced in boardrooms. Details, details. 500 families rely on reliable energy. Coal. Your little pond's been idle for 70 years. We're giving it purpose, sustainable, green purpose. Community standards demand it. Idle? It's existed just fine without your standards. And that deed from 52 trumps your initiative. She snapped the portfolio shut, the click echoing like a gavel. The courts will decide. In the interim, familiarize yourself with our bylaws. Your land isn't HOA yet, but these things evolve. She pivoted back to her Mercedes, heels clicking authority, while the workers kept flagging my shore like it was already theirs. That night, I didn't rage or rant. Engineers don't. We document. I snapped photos of every intrusion, flags, tracks, equipment. Dug out Dad's old fireproof box from the cabin closet, spilling deeds and rights certificates across the table. The water rights paper, yellowed but ironclad, stared back. Every drop on this land was Thatcher's. But buried deeper was the game changer. A hand-sketched blueprint labeled emergency drainage system in Dad's precise script. I pored over it till dawn, matching it to topo maps. Dad, an engineer himself, had buried this beast in '68. A 20-foot deep valve tied to a 72-inch pipe snaking half a mile underground to a ravine. Official purpose? Flood control for the earthen dam. Legal. Registered. Never used. Flow rate, 100,000 gallons a minute. The whole 50 million gallon lake gone in 8 hours flat. Their precious plant, reliant on that water for cooling, it'd be high and dry, a steel skeleton in mud. But I wasn't pulling that trigger yet. Civilized folks use channels, lawyers, courts. Naive? Hell yes, as the next weeks proved. I hired Bradley Morse, a sharp property lawyer from Core Contacts. He filed an injunction, hearing in 3 weeks. Meanwhile, construction churned on, floating platform rising like a tumor on my view. And the HOA harassment? Daily envelopes in my mailbox, each more absurd than the last. Violation. Grass height exceeds 3 inches. Fine, $200. Violation. Fence color non-compliant with aesthetic guidelines. Fine, $350. Violation. Unauthorized aquatic activity. Swimming restricted 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Fine, $500. By week 2, fines topped $5,000 for my own damn yard. I called the appeals line, voicemail full, naturally. Victoria's doing, no doubt, petty power plays to break me. The hearing, farce. Judge Harrison, who'd waltzed at Victoria's daughter's wedding and pocketed her husband's campaign cash, banged the gavel. Community benefit overrides private claim. Proceed pending trial in 8 months. Bradley cornered me post-ruling, whispering, connections greased every wheel, mayor, zoning, Enviro Commission. By trial, that plant's juicing 500 homes. No judge touches it then. Defeat tasted like bile as I drove home, the setting sun mocking the half-built platform blotting my lake. That's when Earl Hendrick's rusty pickup idled by the boathouse. Old-timer fisherman, permitted by Dad decades back. Your pod handle this different, Cole, he gravel-voiced, nodding at the water. Different how? He pointed vaguely. He knew the lake's secrets, ins, depths, answers in that boathouse. Boy, he drove off, leaving me puzzled but prodded. The boathouse creaked open to dust and memories. Under the workbench, a locked toolbox, key-taped beneath Dad's style. Inside, a leather journal, pages crammed with his notes, diagrams fleshing out the drainage system. Annual dives to inspect the valve, repairs logged meticulously. Last entry, weeks before his death, valve intact. 3 clockwise turns for activation. Full drain 6 to 8 hours. And a postscript, only if they come for the water. Son, Dad foresaw it, not Victoria specifically, but greed eyeing our oasis. The system wasn't just safety, it was reset button, draining exploits without scorching earth. Lake refills natural. Invaders junk, stranded scrap. Stars glittered on the water as I emerged. Journal clutched. Their plant would wither without water. But first, more patience. Tensions ratcheted like a noose. Construction accelerated. Platform now hosted turbine housings. HOA fines escalated to $10,000. Now with threats. Non-compliance may result in lien proceedings. Neighbors, swayed by Victoria's newsletters painting me as obstructionist relic blocking green progress, started dirty looks at the grocery store. Whispers, that Thatcher's hoarding the lake like it's his kingdom. Selfish, I kept documenting, timestamps on builds, permit discrepancies, even overheard worker gripes about skipped enviro checks. Bradley dug deeper. Turns out Victoria's hubby owned the construction firm, and donations flowed to officials like cheap wine. Then the bomb, a certified letter from the county. Eminent domain initiated on Thatcher parcel. Just compensation pending appraisal. Vacate in 30 days. Not just water, they wanted it all. Pocketed it. Flipped to Dad's activation page. 3 months of rope. They'd hung themselves. The final 72 hours? Surgical. First, my warning. Registered mail to Victoria. Structural concerns with water table under your facility. Recommend immediate shutdown for survey. Formal notice. She signed receipt Thursday 11:14 a.m. That afternoon, cameras caught her Mercedes idling in my drive. 3 minutes of hesitation, then gone. By Friday, Marcus, her guard, Grandma Lake native, uneasy with shady deals, fished my letter from her trash. She'd want this, he muttered, handing it over. Friday night, grand opening gala on the platform. Champagne, jazz, Victoria center stage, toasting with Mayor and Pauls who'd bent rules. I watched from the hill, their lights mocking the lake. At 10 p.m., turbines hit full 30 megawatts to 500 homes. Cheers echoed like victory laps over stolen ground. 11:15 p.m., wetsuit on, I slipped in. Cold gripped like doubt, but purpose propelled. No light needed, knew every contour. 20 feet down, valve housing waited. 3 turns, first easy, second stiff, third release. Current tugged, gentle then insistent. Surface to dropping levels, an inch, then 3. Coffee on porch. I watched. 12:15 a.m., Worker panic. Flashlights scanning. 12:30. Pipes gasping. 12:45. Turbines wailing like banshees. 1 o'clock. Shutdown cascade. Valley blacked out. Victoria screeched in at 1:23. Gown disheveled. Mercedes skidding. What did you do? You murdered a community. I emerged calm. Opened a registered 68 flood valve on my land. Mrs. Sterling. You can't. Illegal. For what? Legal operation. You were warned, signed. Trashed it. She crumpled to mud knees. Permits were perfect. Stolen. Fraudulent studies. Bribes. I flashed the email, FBI. AG. PA docs. Emails. Testimonies. $2.4 million embezzled HOA funds. Her empire? Theft built. Sunrise exposed the wreck. Mud flats. Tilted platform. Silt-caked turbines. Choppers by 7 a.m. Story viral. Narrative flipped. FBI probe by noon. Charges on officials. Victoria arrested in mud gown. Wire fraud. Embezzlement. Dominoes tumbled. Marcus testified bribes. Treasurer exposed thefts. Final tally. $3 million embezzled over 15 years. 17 bribed officials. $800,000 defrauded grants. Irony? Grants for lake preservation. Victoria, 8 years prison. Hubby, 6. CEO probation. Commissioner, indicted. Plant dismantled at county dime. Cleanup matched build cost. Lake refilled. Half-depth spring. Full by anniversary. HOA dissolved. Neighbors apologized. Victims themselves. Bradley asked regrets. Families lost power 3 days. Inconvenient. But on stolen juice. Small price. Victoria had choices. Ask. Compensate. Respect. Chose bully. Water doesn't care for papers. Respects first stewards. Her prison letter? Kindling. Ashes rose over my silent. Full lake. I still docked on with coffee. Mist rolling like old times. Trout splash. Heron's nest. Lesson. Patience isn't weak. Docks aren't paranoid. Quietest guy's deadliest. But tell me, was draining that lake justice served? Or just a man pushed too far? Who's the real villain here?